What up, what up, what up, what up?
Welcome.
Dun, 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 dun. This is where the intro song comes in.
I know. Hopefully soon.
عارف intro song ያስፈልገናል ገና ግዴታ
I know.
እዚህ ጋር የሚገባ
DJ ፍቄ እንግዲህ የሆነ ነገር ያዘጋጅልናል።
እንጠራዋለን ትላለህ እዚህ ጋር አሪፍ intro ዘፈን።
I know.
So to everyone listening, it's going to be the first episode. So this is the Autodidact podcast for the Autodidact guys. We haven't really decided on any name yet, so maybe I don't know. You guys could help us out with that too. Autodidact Mindino Kalachu. We'll be talking about that soon. So basically, what this podcast is about is we're basically two friends who are really into self-development, and we'll be taking books that helped us way more that are really interesting or that could really help us way more help you Nantanam. And now we'll be dissecting the books and now try to summarize what the book talks about within 30 minutes. So short summary, የአማርኛና እንግሊዝኛ የቀላቀልን ነው የምናወራው እና short summary in a way እኛ በተረዳነው መልኩ but we'll try to do the best that we can ማለት ነው to summarize it. Did I miss anything? I don't know.
No, that's it. I mean, it could be self-development books, entrepreneurship, like business books, like whatever
Yeah,
we have read and we feel like has impacted our lives. We want to be able to share that to people and get the youth involved in reading and other avenues of learning.
for sure. And this is not just about us. It's like it's like we're learning. እኛ ወይ አውቀን ምናምንም አይደለም የሆነ
I know.
we're not የሆነ ወይ የተማሩ wise people or something. We're still on this journey of life and now we're still learning. መጽሐፎችንም we're still understanding them. Even ያነበብናቸው መጽሐፎች ራሱ there are lots of things that we forget about.
That's true.
Yeah, to give a little bit of a background, መጽሐፍ አናነብም ነበር ድሮ በጣም ነበር የምንጠላው። So if anybody's out there like መጽሐፍ ማንበብ የሚጠላ እንረዳቸዋለን definitely.
Yeah, I could not read 2 pages of a book without thinking about something else. Like ገና ሁለት ቃል እንዳነበብኩ በቃ የህይወቴ ችግር እንዳለ ነው አይኔ ላይ የሚመጣውና ከባድ ነው የሌለ
ራሽ የእኔ ደግሞ እንቅልፍ ነው በቃ አይደለም like በቃ I'll always sleep አይደለ ማለት ነው።
while you're reading.
እውነት like በቃ አልችልም literally 10 ፔጅ አላልፍም ነበር።
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. No. It is what it is. But now here we are, and today will be our first episode. So on the first episode, we have this book that we have read. Now that we'll try to dissect in under 30 minutes and not summarize them. So the book that we have for today, which we think is a very good intro, La Podcastum for this self-development journey. It's the name of the book is The Science of Self-Learning. So it talks about self-learning and we'll get right to it then. በደንብ summarize ለማድረግ እንሞክራለን.
Yeah,
Let's try to do that under 30 minutes.
that's the goal እንግዲህ. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So basically the book, the name is The Science of Self-Learning. So but basically the book starts with talking about the traditional system of learning and its limitations. You know how it is like normally when we're learning, we don't learn better touch and pace. Maybe sometimes it's too fast for us, sometimes it's too slow for us. Sometimes the way it's communicated is not the way and you know what I'm talking about, Mitch.
Yeah.
We have systems of experience, but you might have math teacher, a science teacher who did not communicate the studies, in the way that we wanted to. Also, like evaluation Daragon, in the way they think we should be evaluated. like so many problems with the traditional system ማለት ነው። እና ቤዚክሊ in the traditional environment ደግሞ እኛ የምንማረው ላይክ ሌሎች ዲሳይድ ባረጉት ሜተድ ነው። ቢፎር ሃንድ በቃ ዲሳይድ አድርገዋል። ይሄ ካለፍክ ወይ ክሬት ፈተና ካለፍክ or something ወይ እንደዚህ ከተማርክ ብለውና you know how do you feel about it Dante?
Yeah, I mean, a traditional way of learning, I mean, even the traditional የሚለው as a key role አይደለ? Like this system has been in place before technology was ያለበት ደረጃ ያለበት ከመድረሱ በፊት and all other places, and it was more designed like to bring communities like to mass teach ለማድረግ ማለት ነው. So it's hard to customize any specific education. or ሊዮ አንደርስታንድ የሚያደርገው ፋስት ፔስ ስለሆነ እሱን እንደዚህ ከዛ ደግሞ ናሆም ደግሞ እንደዚህ ስለሆነ ቀስ ያለ ስለሆነ ሜቢ እሱን ደግሞ ለሚቴክ ታይም ማለት አትችልም when you're in a class of like 50 or 100. But now technology has gotten so advanced to a point you can learn anything from anywhere. You know, you don't need an instructor to stand in front of 100 kids. You know, you can pause live like a lecture and take notes and take as much time as you need, but we're still using traditional ways of learning and evaluating individuals, which is not the best way to evaluate anybody. I don't know. So
Correct.
I think that's where this book comes in of being Masawani.
For sure. Basically, like the book starts off basically describing what you just said right now, and it goes on to talk about self-learning, right? Why self-learning is necessary because of these exact reasons, you know, because like the traditional system does not meet the requirements that, you know, we set, or የኛ requirement meet ሊያደርግ አይችልም, or የሁሉም ሰው requirements meet ሊያደርግ አይችልም, because it's a standard system for everyone ማለት ነው. So it says that self-learning is very important. እና self-learners ደግሞ በቃ ግዴታ መሆን አለብን ነገር ነው። ኦር ብንሆን በጣም we would really benefit አሁን ባለንበት ዓለም ውስጥ ነው። And it has a really valid point, you know, and basically goes on to mention like a lot of self-learners, a lot of famous people that we know of, like some of them like mention የተደረጉት like Da Vinci, Tesla, Albert Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, like all these people like mentioned in the book are like self-learners በራሳቸው ማለት ነው። they were like በትምህርት ቤት ወይ ምናምን ተምረው ምናምን አይደለም የደረሱበት ቦታ የደረሱት like በራሳቸው studying, reading, you know, devoted ሆነ በመስራታቸው በራሳቸው ማለት በራሳቸው ፔስ የሄዱትና basically it really emphasizes like this is basically what the book is about, like it really emphasizes like why self-learning is important እና like ተምረን ወይ ዲግሪ ይዘን ማስተርስ ይዘን ምናምን ነገር ኦኬ በቃ አለቀ you know ተምሬያለሁ አለቀ ነገር ሳይሆን that's እንዲሁም nothing, you know, like ዋናው እሱን ሳትማር ቀርተህ በደንብ በራስህ የምትማረው እንዲሁም በደንብ እሱን ብታጧጥፍ ነው የሚሻለው ነገር። I guess what the book is about.
That's true.
Yeah.
Basically self-learning is the way ነገር ነው አይደለ? Like the alternative of traditional learning. That is the main focus on the book. And what are these self-learners called? Like people who acquire knowledge on their own or chasing their curiosity. Na የራሳቸውን curiosity chase አድርገው knowledge acquire የሚያደርጉ. What do we call them? And
autodidacts.
And those people are called autodidacts, and that is also the reason why we dedicated the name of this pod, Autodidacts, because this is a newer way of learning, like a podcast, an audio book, like a YouTube video. All these are all new ways of learning, and they're all self-learning. Like you're learning yourself, and nobody gonna force you to watch a YouTube video, or nobody's gonna force you to watch a podcast. You know, so that's why we dedicated the name to that, and we hope that everybody becomes an autodidact one day. And that is the plan.
For sure. We must, I mean, at some point everybody is an autodidact if you think about it. Like, that's you know, there are so many things that we learn by ourselves. Again, Like, I guess we must be more committed to being self-learners and not more satisfying our thirst for a lot of the knowledge that we seek for, you know. Can be a lot of things like cooking or, you know, just passion which I'm doing. Nah, we really have to go for them, learn them by ourselves because ለሁሉም ነገር ትምህርት ቤት ገብተን አንችለውም you know
Yeah.
ትምህርት ቤቱም ሁሉን
Yeah.
ማስተምሮን አይችልም like everyone የሚፈልገውን individually አያስተምርም እና so it's like I guess a necessity if you think about it.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then it goes on to
So
talk about, yeah,
yeah, I mean, so let's get into it. I don't know, like it goes on to
yeah,
talk about.
for sure, for sure. It goes on to talk about the learning success pyramid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now that we want to be autodidacts, it's like the book
Mm-hmm,
goes about saying, how can you be an autodidact or how can you approach this science of self-learning? I don't know, like you don't just pick up with like, I think we as እንትን አሁን like oh self-learn አድርግ ምናምን ሲባል በቃ like ሄደህ አንብበህ በቃ ፈልጥ አምጣው ምናምን ነገር. That is
yeah,
one thing that comes to mind, but there's a lot of steps that we have to do behind the scenes that will
mm-hmm,
allow us to become a successful autodidact. So, and the book talks about that. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That is like it really caught my attention by the way. Like A part, this is something I really did not expect to read. Kind of like, oh, okay, nagar BA, and I realized nagar again, nagar no like, because normally, like when we think about self-learning, we think about okay, but you know, mazaf kapan manda or something, you know, and there are like other things. There are like stages to it. You just don't pick up a book and learn, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
nah, I wasn't aware of those stages, you know, those levels,
Yeah.
those or those
Yeah.
like a pyramid method on I guess, as the book says,
Mm-hmm.
and now this book kind of clarifies that. And basically, what these stages are, so it's like on in football, like it's, I think it's a NBA coach, right?
Yeah. It's a
In the book,
basketball
Camino.
coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
John
So it's
John
like,
Wooden. No? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like there's this coach that came up with these 15 stages, yellow pyramid to succeed in Agarbalo. Kazala, and then someone called Kruger Damo came up with the 3 stages, right? Like Yanin summarize our the 50 steps. So those 3 stages are like confidence, self-management, and learning. So it's like ከቤዙ የፒራሚዱ ቤዝ ኮንፊደንስ አለ ከዛ በላይ ሰልፍ ማኔጅመንት አለ ከዛ በኋላ ለርኒንግ የሚመጣው ሶ ላይክ ኖርማሊ younger like let's become self learner so let's learn about something ስንል መጀመሪያ we have to lay out the foundations which is መጀመሪያ confidence ከዛ በኋላ self management ከዛ በኋላ learning የምንሄደው እና
Mm-hmm.
one by one like ምንድን ናቸው እነዚህ ነገሮች you know like you go
That's true. That's
yeah
true. I mean, so that like even me, kadam እንዳልኩ like ዘልዬ learning ላይ ነው የሚሄደው, right? Like that's
yeah
the thing we just jump to, and that
mm-hmm,
becomes like a recipe for disaster because that like we're not setting ourselves up for
mm-hmm,
success. Like when we're
mm-hmm,
saying like there are so many times where I've tried to learn something and I didn't lay out the basis and I just tried to learn it, and
yeah
then when it didn't work, like I ended up kind of disappointed or like
yeah
thinking that I can't do it. But in reality, it's because I didn't set up those things and I didn't set up the
mm-hmm,
foundations to get to that place. And I just went to learn. And that's why I failed. And I got one of them. So, and
yeah
that's kind of one. So, yeah, let's get to the first one. So, the first one is confidence.
mm-hmm,
I mean, this is very self explanatory, but I feel like confidence is so important. Like knowing that and believing that you can do something or you can learn the topic that you want to learn is a
mm-hmm.
huge step into even before you even read anything. Like you have to believe that you can understand it, right? Like there's some people that you see like they're like, oh እኔ ለማትስ አልተፈጠርኩም or
Yeah,
እኔ
yeah,
ፊዚክስማ ለእኔ አይደለም ምናምን ነገር, you
yeah.
know, like if you already have
Zero
that
confidence.
mindset, yeah,
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter like if you get the amazing professor or if you get the best YouTube video, your
yeah,
mind is already blocked, you know, like your
Yes.
confidence is at zero. So there's no way this information is going to get to you.
Yes.
So I think
It's
the
the
first step,
foundation.
the first step of that foundation is making sure like you are capable, of doing it. And it's not like you're not lying to yourself. And actually, it is true. Like you are, like you're not fooling yourself
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
acquire these knowledge. Like
Yeah.
anything, like any knowledge that it exists in this world is man-made.
Mhm.
So like if somebody created it, we can understand it. Anybody can understand anything. Like I truly
Mhm.
believe in that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why confidence is the first step. Like we don't have to shoot ourselves on the foot before we even get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And the second one is self-management. So self-management, ራሱ ቃሉ እንደሚለው it's about managing yourself. It's all about after you have the confidence, after you believe in yourself, like have the ability to learn ካልክ በኋላ you should have the discipline, you know. Discipline ሊኖር ይችላል. You should be able to self-regulate your, let's say, impulses way, your focus የማድረግ ability ሊኖር ይገባል። ደግሞ which is a prerequisite ደግሞ ምን ይላል መጽሐፉ ላይ you have to have self-motivation. So በራስ ተነሳሽነት ከሌለ you can't be a self-learner. This is where schools እና the traditional institution comes in, you know. ከውጭ ነው የሚያስገድዱ እንጂ የሆነ የራስ ተነሳሽነት ብዙ አይጠይቅም, you know, in the
Yeah.
traditional institutions ማለት እዚህ ላይ ደግሞ it's the exact opposite. You're the student and you're the teacher at the same time,
Mhm.
you know. At the same time you should be able to regulate yourself ማለት ነው. teacher እየሆንክ ተማሪ እየሆንክ ደግሞ you
Yeah.
should be able to do what you're supposed to do. So that's the second part about the self-management.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the third one is learning. Yeah, like top of the pyramid, like, but on confidence and self-management. ከተሟላ የቀረው ምንድነው? Now you can get down to it. Yeah, you believe you can learn it. You have the confidence. Uh, you have the self-management. Like you have discipline. Okay, ጠዋት ተነስቼ I'll read this book
Mhm.
for 20 minutes or 10 minutes. You know, ወይ
Yeah.
ወደ ስራ እየሄድኩኝ ታክሲ ውስጥ ገብቼ I'll read it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you know. እንዲሁም ትራፊክ ጃም ኢትዮጵያ ከሆነ like
Mhm. I
ትራፊክ
know.
ጃም ያስቀምጣል
You have so much
እንዲሁም
time.
እሰየውን I know. እና በቃ I'm gonna read every morning for 20 minutes ትላለህ። ከዛ በኋላ just doing it ከዛ በኋላ በቃ you have the confidence, you have the self management, it's all about learning ከዛ በኋላ መጽሐፉን አንስቶ ማለት ነው። አሁን እዚህ ጋር like when it comes to the learning ደግሞ መጽሐፉ ላይ ምን ይላል? Like there are like ways of learning, you know, ways that you can optimize your learning process. So
Yeah,
that's what the
that's
book
true.
says. Yeah.
Yeah. And now that we had kind of have like those foundations covered, like now we got to the learning, right? Okay, so how do we learn the more the knowledge? Like, and the first technique that's written in this book, John Collins, like he mentions the SQ3R method. This I did not like the name. Such complicated name. ምን ሊያስተምረኝ ነው ምናምን already my confidence zero ነበረ like SQ3 ሲል I'm like shit. ምን ሊያስተምረኝ ነው?
ፒራሚዱ ላይ ቻው።
Yeah. So foundation ላይ ያደረኩትን ይዞት ሄዶ ነበር, but it was not. It's not complicated. It's not physics or anything. It's more like an abbreviation of survey. Mean survey, question, read, retrieve, and review. That's basically what it means. So we basically use these 5 steps. We follow these 5 steps anytime we're trying to acquire new knowledge, and that will help us like more retain the knowledge long term. I don't know. So yeah, we can get started with the survey, and survey is before we read any book, basically, like it's saying like let's go through the content, right? Like before, let's say like you're about to read a book on the science of self-learning. You guys watch this podcast and you guys are interested in reading it. Oh, this is also a way, like you can say this is also a way of surveying, right? Like before, we are another way of surveying. Like we're giving you like insights to the book so you guys can go read the full book. So we are part of surveying as well. So, and let's say you guys are interested in a book, you guys will open up the chapter, like you guys want to read through the contents, you guys want to skim through the book, see what it's about, see what it is, and see what you're expecting from the book. Like we want to be able to survey this book and understand what this book is about before we just jump into it. So I think that helps a lot, like better, in my opinion. And it makes things a lot easier, like moving forward. Because now you're setting your expectations straight by going through this content. Now you know what you're expecting. Now you know what you're going to get yourself into.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like SQ3R, right? So there are like 5 things: survey, question, read, retrieve, and now review. So the second one is like question. So question is like when you go through a book, አሁን ለምሳሌ አንድ መጽሐፍ ስናነሳ የሆነ table of contents ምናምን ይኖራል አይደለ? So it's like chapter 1 የሆነ እንደዚህ you know የእንትን ግድያ ወይ የሆነ I don't know, like this ይኖራሉ።
ምን አይነት መጽሐፍ ስታነብ ነበረ?
የሆነ I don't know where that came from, honestly. ብቻ የሆነ like አሁን ለምሳሌ ጊዜ አጠቃቀም or something ቻፕተር ሊኖር ይችላል you know so the chapter name እንደዛ ተብሎ ሊሆን ይችላል የተጻፈው or እንደዚህ you know some other different example ሊሆን ይችላል ማለት ነው። So basically what we're doing is after we do the general survey ነገር የሆነ አለፍ አለፍ ብለን like what is the book about ካልን በኋላ we turn those chapters የቻፕተር ስሞች ወደ ጥያቄ። So for example አሁን ጊዜ አጠቃቀም የሚለው we can be like እንዴት ጊዜን በአሪፍ መልኩ መጠቀም እችላለሁ ወይ በአንድ ቀን ውስጥ ብዙ ነገር እንዴት መስራት እችላለሁ ባለኝ ጊዜ ማለት ነው ምንም ሳልቀንስ እንዴት ብዙ ነገር መስራት እችላለሁ በሚል በራሳችን like ወደ ጥያቄ እንለውጠዋለን ያንን ቻፕተር ስሙን በጥያቄ ማለት ነው። that means ልክ አንብበን ስንጨርስ ይህን ጥያቄ መመለስ አለብን ማለት ነው። በቃ የዚህን ጥያቄ መልስ ኦኬ ይሄ ነው መልሱ ብለን በስርዓት ላይ ለማወቅ ያስችለናል ማለት ነው። እና ስናነብ ራሱ will be like ኦኬ ጥያቄ ተመለሰልኝ እያለን ሞር ማንበብ እንችል ይረዳናል ማለት ነው።
Yeah, and that's a great segue. And the third one is reading, right? Like, and the reading part is I mean the most obvious part, right? Like we've already surveyed, we've written down our questions that we want to answer. So now we're reading with purpose. We're not just like just reading it, we're reading actively. And now we have a mission. The mission is to answer these questions that we've written down. Like if it's about time management, how do we manage our time during each that? Or these questions survey argan and question now we're actively reading to find answers to these questions. So now it's we have more curiosity because we have questions that we've already written down. So in the case, let me answer this question. We're actively reading. So it helps us to engage in the book that we're reading and to find answers. So that way, like we're walking away with something instead of just reading unconsciously in hopes to like your enlightenment like or just because a friend recommended this book or something like so I think that's the third part is the reading part. I think it's an amazing and
definitely እኔም እሱ ፓርት በጣም እንትን ብሎኛል because like normally እኔ መጽሐፍ ሳነብ በቃ ዝም ብዬ አነባለሁ like hopefully some part of it ላይ በቃ የሆነ I'll be like oh wow ይሄ ነገር you know just like on ይሄን ፓርት ስናነበው የሆነ oh okay ምናምን ብዬ እንትን እንዳልኩት hopefully በቃ የሆነ I'll get to that point በሚል ነው በቃ ዝም ብዬ የማነበው ወይ ሳነብም ወይ ኦዲዮ ቡክን ታዳምጥ ቢሆን it's like that እንጂ የሆነ I'm not like okay you know is it getting to the answer እስኪ የታለ አንሰሩ እስኪ እያልኩኝ ነገር አይደለም የማነበው እና I feel like this is a really good the next step is the retrieve. So retrieving is like you retrieve from your memory ምን እንዳነበብን ማለት ነው። So አሁን ለምሳሌ የሆነ አሁን ያንን ቻፕተር አነበብን ጥያቄው ለመመለስ ሞከርን ምን አለ ከዛ በኋላ ምን እናስታውሳለን እስኪ አሁን like ከዚህ ቻፕተር ብለን we'll try to write as much as we can ማለት ነው። በቃ ትዝ የሚለን like on okay what do I remember you know ምንድነው እኔ ጋር የቀረው knowledge ይሄንን ካነበብኩት ብለን እሱን we'll write it down. We can write it down on the book itself. By the way like በጣም በተለይ I don't know like in Ethiopia I think it's pretty common like መጽሐፍ ላይ በተአምር መጽሐፍ የለባችሁም ምናምን የሚባል ነገር አለ ነው ቢካዝ ያው መጽሐፍ ትዋዋሳለህ ምናምን እና የሆነ
ተከራይተህ ነው ጀለስ የምታወጣው ምን
ትክክል ትክክል in that case maybe like writing on a piece of paper ግን ደግሞ ከተቻለ maybe buying your own book and now we're ደግሞ at the last stages I don't know maybe attaching a paper like አጣብቆም ሊሆን ይችላል ከዛ በኋላ write it down just whatever you remember you know to that book ከዛ በኋላ if you're returning the book you can just you know ፔፐሩን አላቀህ ማለት ትችላለህ እና what do I remember የሚለው ማለት I feel like that was good
yeah በጣም and I mean the last one is review and that's the fifth one and that's more like the same as retrieving but it's more for the whole book in general right like maybe the retrieve might be specific question or tune like how well do you remember them and how well did you answer the questions that you had but the retrieve part demo could be as a whole book in general like what have you read and understood and
yeah definitely now overall but this is the SQ3R method one of the methods that would really help us like learn better the other method that he talks about is Cornell notes so Cornell notes like Cornell University I guess የሚጠቀሙበት notes as it describes in the book
it was like I think
yeah so basically it's like a type of note taking maybe this is especially very good for if there are any medicine students out there or I don't know for studying biology or you know whatever it is like ብቻ notes ለማውጣት ነው እና so on a piece of paper like in the eye እንሰራለን on a piece of paper ማለት ሆኖ አይ የምንሰራው like አዩ ላይ ያለው እንትኑ ቋሚ ስላለ ምንድን ነው ይባለው ከላይና ከታች ያለው መስመር የሚያገናኘው እሱን ወደ ግራ በደንብ እናስጠቃለን basically like a splitting a paper in two places ግን በቀኝ በኩል ያለው ቦታ space twice as big as the one on the left ነው የምናደርገው ማለት ነው so after we do that ከስር ደግሞ ትንሽ we leave it a little bit space so ምንድነው የሚለው like after we do that በጣም effective ነው ሜተድ ተብሎ እንትን ስለተሰራበት I guess white mentioned in the book እና በቀኝ በኩል we write as many things as possible like እንደ ኖት እንደማውጣት ማለት ነው so with many details even ስዕል ራሱ ልንስልበት እንችላለን we just do it as many details as possible and then on the left side we write the main things you know በቀኝ በኩል more detail የጻፍናቸውን በግራ በኩል more in the main points ነገር አድርገን we kind of like summarize it እና ዋና ዋናዎቹን ነገር እንጽፋለን right ካልተሳሳትኩኝ ከዛ በኋላ ከስር ደግሞ we summarize what there is ማለት ነው በግራም በቀኝም ያለው ካልተሳሳትኩኝ am I right
that's correct
yeah so እንደዛ እናደርጋለን ከላይ ደግሞ ያው ቀን ምናምን ነገር ጻፉ ይላል just in case የሆነ you wanna you know remember exactly which day ምናምን እንትን ያላችሁት ግን basically that's the Cornell notes honestly for me personally I'm not really I used to be a lot of በጣም notes ወስድ ነበር ድሮ you know when I was in school ምናምን ነገር that really helped me ግን nowadays it's been a while since I took notes honestly speaking like properly took notes ማለት ነው
yeah and yeah well, I don't know if that's a good thing or not because ራስህ ነበር ያልከው like about what was the quote I think there was a specific quote on the book
yes
yeah
like
I don't know
yeah የሆነ በርትራንድ ራስል or something የሚባል ሰውዬ እንትን ያለው እና it's like የሚለው there is no big difference between a person who read without taking notes and not reading there's no big difference between reading without taking notes and not reading at all so it's important like taking notes ነገር ነው you know and that's a good point yeah that's something I have to work on myself for sure definitely
yeah and I think the next one on the book talks about how to read faster and not retain more knowledge right like now we have all these steps that we're taking to actively ሪድ እንድናደርግ የሚረዱ ነገሮች ኪሪዮሲቲያችንን ኢንትሪግ የሚያደርጉ ነገሮች እነዛን SRQ3ዎቹን ሜቶዶች እየጠቀምን ስለሆነ
Yeah.
so now like ስናነብ how can we read faster and at the same time retain more knowledge, and there are multiple key pointers that he mentioned. They're mainly four.
Yeah.
And the first one is stop sub-vocalizing. And this is a very famous one, right? Like every time we read, our mouth is shut, but we are reading as like we're vocalizing in
Both
our head
Yeah.
as we're reading it. And this is a very common habit, and I still have it till this day. And
Yeah.
I force myself to stop as much as possible. And the reason why it's so important to stop this is because it slows our reading down
For
dramatically.
sure.
Like
For sure.
and I think there's a stat mentioned on the book that says even like ማቆማችን it will increase our reading by X folds. Like I don't remember exactly what X it is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it increases our reading speed significantly. And I think the most one of the tips about sub-vocalizing is just humming while you're reading, and that helps a lot because it's hard for your brain to sub-vocalize and hum and
Yeah.
at the same time. So just
Yeah.
hum, hopefully in private, library stuff, don't do it, but the trick works.
Yeah.
And because it will force your brain not to read as you're humming.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. So that would be a nice way to practice to stop sub-vocalizing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. The next one is train your eyes. So basically, like what the book says is like train your eyes to read and like better on unit of like color, tolo deal. Train it, but at the same time train it to go at the same speed. So how to train it like on why is it important? It's because ቶሎ እንድናነብ ስለሚረዳን ቶሎ like ወደ ጎን እያልን አይናችን ማለፍ የሚችል ከሆነ we'll be able to read faster, especially if we're not sub-vocalizing ማለት ነው። እና how to train your eyes የሚለውን ደግሞ ቅድም humming እንዳለው ደግሞ ለዚህኛው ደግሞ ሜተድ ምንድን ነው የሚለው በእጃችሁ or by pen or something ቴክስቱን እንደዚህ ፎሎ አድርጉት like ወደ ግራ ወደ ቀኝ ወደ ግራ ወደ ቀኝ ወደ ግራ ወደ ቀኝ at the same speed, like speed ሳትቀይሩ like with the same speed consistently እንደዛ አድርጉት እና after some point like your eyes will start adjusting, like training basically. And now you start reading by that speed, like consistently.
Yeah. And the third one is what was the third one? Strategically skimming.
Yeah.
And that one is it says slow. It says like it was weird. Like I was reading. It says slow readers read linearly, and fast readers read
diagonally. Yeah.
which was kind of confusing to me when I was reading it. I was like, what? But basically, when you're skimming, like you want to be able to skim like faster, right? Like if you're skimming diagonally without noticing, you're catching like multiple words at the same time. So you know where to stop if you want to enter marat. So it's like it's much more similar to the previous one.
Yeah.
Once you master on how to train your eyes, then strategically skimming becomes much faster and it becomes much more efficient, because when you're reading a book, you don't want to read everything. You just want to retain the information that you want to retain. So that would help in that regard, Malan.
Definitely. And about skimming, I think Miaro Nagar is like maximum aim for 75%, reading 75% of the thing. And I think skimming is possible because you already have questions on your head and you know like everything else is kind of like bullshit, because like I don't know for everyone, for anyone out there, like we know like there is the honey, but at the same time there's a lot of bullshit around it, ጥያቄውን ለመመለስ ይቀለናል, like we can just skim through it እና we can just ignore ጥያቄውን የማይመልስልን ነገር, and we can adapt. So yeah, the መጨረሻ ላይ የምናወራው ምንድነው, like it's about the first thing is like focus and attention, and then በደንብ try to work on it ነው የሚለው. Basically it says it all, focus and attention. So like I don't think there's a way to describe it, to be honest. Again, basically what the book goes on to explain is like there are like 4 types of let's say there are like 4 um, when you're reading, there are like 4 types nagar, of reading. So it's like there's elementary, sectional, analytical, and syntopical. So it's like it's like in the level nagar, no? That we should how you're reading action level these 4 things. So elementary know. Elementary is probably how we're reading right now. Like ቀስ ብለን በቃ እንደዚህ እያነበብን በቃ እያንዳንዱን ምናምን በቃ just ማንበብ ማለት ነው። That's probably በቃ elementary.
Yeah, and inspectional demo, inspectional demo, when you start wondering what is precisely what you're reading, like, right? Like when you have like this curiosity and when you're reading something versus when you're just reading something, like,
Yeah.
you wanna remember, like I remember in high school when the teacher that you love and not like that explains things very well. Like when it's their class, you're so excited. Like to learn, right? Like because you're gonna be like, oh my god, I'm so curious. Like
Yes.
and when you have that as I want astamari, you're like, I'm rolla ተዘግቶ ነው የሚጠብቀው ማለት ነው. So like you want to be like, it doesn't put you in that inspectional እንትን ማለት ነው.
Totally,
So
totally.
making sure you have that curiosity and more inspectional እንትን store, it puts it in a good እንትን ማለት ነው.
Totally. I think having a question is like what's important. So it's like if you think about it, the most interesting subjects or በጣም መማር የፈለግናቸው is like things we have question about, አእምሯችን ውስጥ there are questions and we want to find out the answers. That's why we're so excited. That's so important to reading, that's like the second level, having a question and not trying to inspect through the book to find the answers. So the third one, what it says in the book, is analytical. So basically analytical is like when you're reading a book, when you have a question, and when you have the answer demo, when you're taking Cornell notes. So when you're taking Cornell notes, like you're really being analytical, like, okay, and then like you're describing it on your notes, you're summarizing what you learned and stuff, like like when you're like dissecting the knowledge that you observed from the book marathon. Now that's analytical, which is like the analytical should be like, oh, okay, the best.
That's true. But there's another one, which is the apex of reading. This is where you want to be. It's called syntopical, and this is basically the LeBron James of reading. No, I don't know. When you get to this level, you are Messi and you are LeBron James at this point. I don't know. Then this is basically when you get to this level, like the level 1 elementary, inspectional, and analytical. It's very good. Like analytical is almost the top for that specific intent, but for that knowledge you're acquiring, you want to be able to take that and compare it to something else. So when you get to a level where you've done your analysis on and then you go take this data point or this knowledge that you acquire and you compare it to something else, and that makes you a syntopical reader, and that's where you want to be. You want to make sure you gather your information from multiple places and be able to compare and understand those on multiple levels.
Definitely.
And that's what LeBron James does to that.
Honestly, like it's a very great takeaway, and I feel like it was a very this is like the kind of like the ending of the book, it kind of like puts a like an exclamation with this syntopical point. It's like when you're a self-learner, it's not just about learning, it's about acquiring knowledge enough, comparing it with other sources of knowledge, and like really like በደንብ compare questioning it. And I like, okay, like, what do I think is right? ይህንን መጽሐፍ አንብቤያለሁ about this topic, ይህንን መጽሐፍ አንብቤያለሁ about the same topic. What do I think? ሁለቱም የሚሉት ምንድን ነው? Which one do I think is right? Which one resonates with me? ምናምን ብለን ስናመዛዝን, that's when we're really becoming like the best that we can be ማለት ነው. Like the best type of
Yeah.
self-learners, or really like, you know, we can take it to the next level ነገር.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And the traditional doesn't allow us to do that, አይደለ? Like an information is given to
No.
us and it's just accept to take it or leave it ነገር ነው. And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
also given to you in a way that like that you might not even understand, or you don't like, they don't care. It's given to you. You can't
Yes.
question it. You can't internalize it. You just take it. And that's the biggest problem. And it was a very nice ending to the book. And the book is not like, it's not like a new knowledge that it's dropping on us, but it's like the fundamental that it's giving us. And these fundamentals are like the building blocks to chase our curiosity and to acquire more knowledge and to fulfill our dreams, basically, right? Like, so.
For sure.
Yeah, and
For sure.
it was a nice read with them.
በጣም it's actually a very concise book. በጣም የሆነ ትልቅ አይደለም፣ ጥቅጥቅ ያለ ምናምን ትናል የሆነ ቅልል ያለ ነገር መጽሐፍ ነው። Actually እንዲሁም like it took us more than 30 minutes ይህንን summarize ለማድረግ. እንግዲህ we'll have to do a better job in the next episodes when we're summarizing the next book. በደንብ ኮንሳይስ አድርገን እኛም መጨረስ ይኖርብናል, just like the book. Then yeah, this is what the book says. So it's like, to as a summary nugget, like what the book says, like autodidact don't think like እንደዚህ የሆነ ሊኒየር በሆነ በቃ ኦኬ የሆነ ኖሌጅ ከሌላ ሰው ተላልፎብኛል ኦኬ that's it በቃ this is the way ማለት ነው ነገር ብሎ አይደለም ትንሽ like they actively search for meaning, you know, not only in the books that they read but also in the life they lead. እና በጣም በቃ የሆነ like this is an awesome thing to take away ለእኛም like you know, moving on with the next episodes with this podcast, with our life, with our businesses, you know, this is really a great take በጣም from this book. Now, and as you said, it's like fundamental, but you know, still necessary.
It's key. Yeah,
the fundamental
that's true.
what take you there? Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah. So any message for the first episode? I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys were able to take away some good points, and I hope you were able to communicate that for you guys properly.
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go. And episode 1, let's wrap it up. Dun, autodidact. We'll do a better job at
I know,
right? The ending part. All right. See you guys.
Yeah, man.